A study done in 2018 by the University of Rutgers found that without pollinators like bees, we would no longer have on this earth things like cocoa, almonds, berries, cherries, apples, or even coffee.
Coffee is life. A yawn is a silent scream for coffee.
So pollinators like birds, bees, butterflies, hummingbirds, bats, and even moths are extremely important to our gardens. Did you know that they pollinate 75% of the food that we eat? 75%, that's a huge number. They're probably no more important than here in the veggie garden. So today here in my veggie garden, I'm gonna plant up a new planter that's gonna be full of flowers, that's gonna be irresistible to those pollinators. So planted right in the middle here, you find a beautiful butterfly bush, and this is a proven winner's butterfly bush called Miss Violet. Now she does get quite tall. She will get about 4, maybe even 5 feet tall, and the flowers on this are highly fragrant. I mean, this thing smells absolutely beautiful when it blooms. The flowers get to be about 4, maybe 5, gosh, even 6 inches long at times. But this thing smells beautiful. It's obviously loved by the butterflies, hence the name butterfly bush. But you'll also find the bees and even moths all over this plant. Now, next up is a daylily, and I keep calling it Moana Loa, but it's Mauna Loa. And this one has deep, dark orange flowers. And this thing will top out at about 2 feet, get about 18 inches wide. It is one of probably the earlier bloomers here. And the hummingbirds absolutely love daylilies. Now, next up, a pollinator garden or a veggie garden has to have a zinnia in here. So we planted a zinnia, and I really like to plant my zinnias with my tomatoes. I plant them right at the same time. And in many states, zinnia is actually considered a great attractor for the monarch butterfly. So I know I'm going to spend many mornings out here, sipping a cup of coffee and just waiting for those monarch butterflies to pay my garden a visit. Next up, we have the Coreopsis grandiflora, and this one gets about 24 inches tall, 18 inches wide. They have a beautiful kind of flat landing pad for butterflies and bees, moths, things like that. It's an open-centered plant, which again is great for pollinators, and the yellow gold color just looks absolutely beautiful. Now, last but not least, every container needs a spiller. And I've planted the dwarf morning glory. This is another proven winner's plant, and it's one of those few plants that has just a deep blue colored flower on it. And so I think between the coreopsis here, this is going to look absolutely beautiful with that gold color and the blue. It's also going to really pull out that orange color on that daylily. So again, this is a great option when you're planting a pollinator container, and the pollinators are going to absolutely love this thing. Now, obviously, those aren't the only plants that pollinators love. They just happen to be plants that I was able to pick up from a box store for 50% or more off. The butterfly bush was one that I did from a cutting. So basically, these plants cost about $20 total. Now, there were other plants that I could have considered buying, things like lavender, milkweed, verbena, black-eyed Susan, echinacea, star jasmine, lantana, California fuchsia, and salvia. I've never seen hummingbirds go more crazy over a plant than the salvia. All right, so I'm sure you heard me say moths and bats earlier and thought, I don't want those in my garden. However, they are extremely important to have in your garden. Think about them as like the night shift. The birds and bees and hummingbirds have been doing their thing all day, and then night comes and here comes the bats and the moths to pollinate your garden. Yes, they do pollinate your garden. Now, moths are extremely important, and their population is in extreme decline. So again, they're ultra important to have things like zinnias in your garden, which they are attracted to. Now, most of all, you got to consider them as a good source of protein for our bird population. And if you currently have chickens, they're super important to attract to your garden. Well, it's great to see that the world is finally coming together and realizing the importance of our population of pollinators. Now, Europe in 2018 signed a pact that they were going to eliminate their pesticides and insecticides by as much as 50%. The United States followed suit and in 2020 eliminated the usage of several different contaminants in farmlands. But I mean, really, at the end of the day, there's so much more we could be doing, especially here at home. We could be planting containers like this that are great for our pollinators. We could also be eliminating the insecticides and pesticides we're using at home. I mean, I know going organic is really tough, but it's so important to do so. We can also be sponsoring or purchasing our honey from, the locally sourced honey. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is to really talk to our friends, our family members, and other gardeners about the importance of our pollinators, because a world without bees is a world without coffee, and a world without coffee is definitely a world that I don't want to be involved in.